Okay, so I want to talk to you today about two posts that I made, one on Instagram and one on TikTok for my music artist page. They both got the same amount of views, around 3,000 views, and they gave me similar amount of followers based on these videos. And what I really want to do is basically show you the difference in effort that I had to put in for each one, and it kind of helps you to realize some videos and bits of content need a lot of effort to be able to kind of trigger the algorithm and get people to interact, whereas other pieces of content on other platforms really don't, and they only take like 5 minutes to make, and they can still gain some decent traction and hopefully build up your audience over time. So my name's Ben, I make electronic music, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm a small artist, I'm trying to build up a following, and I'm testing out loads of different types of content and coming on here and showing you what works and what doesn't in my experience. So let me just get started with these two posts. I'm going to start with Instagram, and then I'm going to talk about TikTok in a second. But if we go onto my Instagram, I basically made this reel the other day, and you can see here top right it got 3,200 views, about 141 likes. I gained about 15 followers on Instagram for this, and basically this video came about because I've actually got the photo here. I used to be a sponsored skateboarder, and I had an interview in this magazine called Sidewalk Magazine. And there's a photo here that I had in the magazine where basically I was in Manchester in the UK, and there was this like abandoned building, and right at the top of this abandoned building there was this gap, and I had the idea to kickflip over this gap, and I shot the photo, went up and filmed it, and basically what I found out is that this was the same location that deadmau5 and Kaskade used for their music video for their song I Remember. And obviously, like I said, I make electronic music, I'm a huge fan of deadmau5, so I decided to make a piece of content that basically showcased the two things. It said, here's me as a skateboarder doing this trick at the same place as deadmau5 filmed this video, and then I linked it back to my music at the end, and I basically just said, yeah, this has been inspiring my music recently, this type of stuff. But let's now think about the effort it took to make that reel. So I mean, the first thing is there's a lot of unseen effort there, because you know, I was skateboarding since I was a kid, and I shot that photo and filmed it when I was about sort of 23. So there was so many years of skateboarding. There was the random day that I found this spot. There was the coincidence that it was the same location as deadmau5's music video that I only discovered years later. And then after that, I only started making music a few years ago, and I put all those together and then made a piece of content about it. And the bit of content, you know, took a bit of editing to get everything in there. I wanted to sort of plan out how I was gonna, you know, create a bit of a hook where you see me skating along the roof just at the start, to draw people's attention in, and then I cut it before the kickflip lands just to make people want to kind of see it, and then I play it later on in the video. There's loads of different things I did to try sort of gain people's attention, and it was the first video on Instagram that I got to 3,000 views, and I can see why, because there's quite a lot of depth to this video. But now let's go over to TikTok, because this is where it gets really interesting, because if I go onto my TikTok, there's a post here that I did that again got 3,000 views, and if I go on the followers from here, 23 followers just off this one post. And now you'll see the difference in effort here, because this is 3 images. One is a selfie of me in this room in my studio, the next one is one of my brand photos, and then the next one is just me. So basically here I said, if this made it to your FYP, your For You page, I want to know where you're from, so I can tell my 19-year-old self that my music has reached outside my hometown. And that took me 5 minutes to make, and there was no huge depth like there was in that Instagram video, but it gave me more followers and the same amount of views just on a different platform. And the reason this one worked is because when you're saying if this made it to your FYP, it's talking directly to that one person who's seeing this on their own For You page, so it makes it kind of about them. And then when you scroll over, it says I want to know where you're from, and then gives them a reason to tell you where they're from. And then you can see at 99 comments, basically it was just flooded with people telling me where they're from. So the more comments that you get, look at that, Oslo Malta, Germany, Scotland, Edinburgh, London, Mauritius Islands. Like, the more people comment, the more it triggered the algorithm, the more it showed it to more people. And yeah, obviously a few of those, because I've got my music playing in the background as well, if they liked it, they'll then come onto my profile and then give me a follow. But this is really, well, I find it's really interesting, because that just shows the kind of difference in effort level between those two platforms at the moment. So I use this to kind of build my own strategy for building a music audience. I use TikTok for discovery because, like you've seen, you can make very quick basic content that's quite throwaway, and it can gain you some decent views and followers. But on Instagram, I use it way more as a kind of like, almost a little bit more curated, and a place to really showcase my artist, music and brand a little bit more, to draw audience members in, to maybe bring them over onto a mailing list or something like that. And so I think they both really work, but for very different reasons. So if I was going in and in and in on Instagram, I'd probably have to be making loads and loads of content on that level of depth to get some views. I mean, I know there's those stories where some people might just post something and it goes viral, but you know, you can't really rely on that. Well, I don't either. So I'm like, I decided to put a lot of effort into that reel, and it actually paid off. So I could keep on doing that. So a lot of effort. But I think it's really good to do every so often, or at least consistently enough to build up an Instagram following. Whereas on TikTok, I post like, you know, 1 to 2 times a day, and I'll just make like a batch load of content really quickly, and then I just, you know, maybe at lunchtime, then in the evening I'll just click post, and yeah, I just sort of see the followers sort of stacking up a little bit quicker than I do on Instagram. So the message I really want to get across to any producer is that there is loads of different platforms you can use to promote your music. And it's really about thinking, what platforms do you feel, you know, are most helpful for you at this stage, whether you're just going for discoverability, where TikTok is really good for that, or you're trying to kind of really sort of give people a deeper dive into your sort of music world and your artist brand. And that's where I feel Instagram is really good for, especially Instagram stories. You can interact with people really well. DMs are really useful. Or you might be like me, who at the moment is doing a little bit of both. And it just shows that not every piece of content you have to make has to be really thought out, has to be really, you know, time consuming to make. If you're working on a different platform like TikTok, it really doesn't have to take that long to make, and you can still gain traction. So what I've done is I've made a YouTube series called Producer versus TikTok, and I've been taking all of the posts that I've been testing out on TikTok, and I've come on here and I've basically showing you what's worked and what hasn't. So yeah, check out this next video, which is the first one in this series, and there's a load of these videos, so you can go check them out, and it might just give you some content ideas of things that you can start posting on TikTok to start building an audience. There's also a free download, the link's in the description. It's basically my kind of top 20 TikTok posts based on things that I've posted and what I've seen other creators posting. So you can download it if you want, just to get you started. So if you're still listening, then thank you for sticking around. Come join the channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.